Hey everyone, it's Darren. Welcome. Today we're going to talk about the first of three mathematical conditional functions in Excel, or maybe conditional mathematical functions in Excel. What these are is they allow you to combine an if statement with some basic mathematical functions, the count function, the sum function, the average function. They can get a little confusing and they do have some serious limitations to just how far you can push them and have it make sense. So we're going to talk about in this video what those limitations are. We're going to look at the CountIf and CountIfs function. Uh, then the next video is going to be the SumIf, SumIfs, AverageIf, and AverageIfs function. Uh, as I said, these do have some serious limitations to just how far you can take them, which is a matter of just how complex your functions actually are. Now these have been around. CountIf has been around since 2007 in Excel. The sum and average if functions have been around since I think 2010. So you probably have them. I know my LibreOffice has them in it as well. So these are probably available to you, although you may have never used them. And they are actually really useful functions. So first, let's look at what you did before these. And this is also what you have to do if you're looking at a complex function. So what you would actually have done before, so let's say I wanted to find out how many odd numbers I have on here. So to figure out if it's odd or not, I just do mod 2, right? So I'd do equals modulo of A1, or sorry, A2, comma 2, and that gives me the modulo for it. But then I would do an if on top of that. So if mod A2, comma 2, then equals 1, then 0, then 1, else 0. And that would give me, if it would give me a 1 if it's an odd number. And if we copy this down, so it gives me a 0 if it's an even number. Um, and that works pretty well. And then what you would do is you would simply go to the bottom of your list after you've run this, and you would do equals sum D2 D50. And that tells me I have 25 odd numbers. And that still works, obviously. You can do that, and you can build very complex conditionals using this structure. You can add as many intermediate columns as you need to. You can then combine those using ands, ors, nots, whatever you need to, in order to build very complex functions to determine whether or not your number qualifies. And then you can do your mathematical operations. If your mathematical operations aren't too complex, there's a better way to do it. And we're going to start off today. We're going to look at the CountIf and the CountIfs function. So the CountIf function. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to find out what's odd. Let me tell you what my data is here first. Column A is just the numbers 1 to 50. Column B is mod 2 of column A, and column C is mod 3. So these are the numbers. These are those numbers, uh, whether or not they're divisible by 2, and that's divisible by 3. So if you don't know the modulo function, it's the remainder. It's just 6 divided by 5 is 1 remainder 1, and it's that remainder part. Okay, so to do CountIf, it's obviously equals CountIf, and then the range we're looking for. In this case, since I've already got the modulo 2 function in there, I'm just going to do CountIf. I'm just going to do the B range here. B2, B51. And criteria, if it's Going to be odd, that would be 1. So 1. You'll notice that's not equals 1. It's just 1. And I have 25 of them, which is a little bit easier. It came up with exactly the same number as what we did over here in column D, but this is a little bit easier function. And you can also put in stuff a little bit more complicated here. So if we do equals CountIf, again, we'll do the same range here. Actually, well, we're going to do the range in A. So we're going to do A2 to A51. And the criteria is greater than 15. So I know how many I have that are greater than 15. So you would think you could put in greater than 15. You would think. Doesn't work. So what you actually have to do is you have to put this into quotes. And it tells us there are 35 of them that are greater than 15. And you see the part that I put into quotes here was the greater than 15 part. And that's one way to do it. You can also do it a different way. So if we do, if I want less than 15, so that's going to be again A2 to A51. And in this case, I want less than. I'm just going to put only the less than in quotes. And then I'm going to do an ampersand 15 and close that. And that tells me I have 14 of them less than 15. So what am I doing here? Well, if you've worked with strings, you probably recognize that I am creating a string here. So this isn't a real conditional. I'm passing a string into the function. And that's a key factor to remember, especially when you get to strings here in a minute. So I'm building a string that actually looks like the less than sign. Ampersand just means glue this thing together. And then 15. So it's passing the greater than 15 into the function. It's not the actual conditional itself here. And what that lets you do, though, is it lets you do a little bit more complicated functions. So if I do CountIf, again, we'll do A2 to A51. And in this case, I want to do does not equal J1. So here I need to do does not equal. And I can actually just do, I think I can just do J1 here if I want to. Let's find out. Yep. Nope. Can't do J1. So if I do close that out, put the ampersand on it, get rid of that. There we go. That's better. Uh, it did not let me just put in does not equal J1. So if you're doing a cell reference, you have to do the ampersand on it. And I was hoping it would be smart enough to handle it, and it's not. It's a good example of why, whenever you're working with formulas that are a little bit different, always prototype them, make sure that stuff works, and then expand them to your whole range or whatever. So I have 49 numbers over there, which are not 10. Sounds good. Okay, what if you have multiple conditions? What if we want to know if how many numbers we have in column A, which are evenly divisible by 2, and at the same time, evenly divisible by 3? And we can do that. And what we do is we use the CountIfs function. It's CountIfs, and watch your information up here on the screen. The criteria range 1. In this case, we have a column already there that has the modulo function in it. So criteria range 1 is going to be B2 to B51. And criteria 1, if it's evenly divisible by 2, that means that the modulo is 0. And now we have criteria range 2, which is column C. So that's C2, C51. And criteria there, again, it should be evenly divisible by 0. And you can keep adding criteria and adding criteria, and then just close it out. And we have 8 of them, which are evenly divisible by 2 and evenly divisible by 3 at the same time. So, and you can use more complicated functions in there. You know, what if we want to know how many are greater than 10 and also less than 40? So that's between 10 and 40, not including 10 and 40. And again, it's just CountIfs, and criteria range 1 is going to be less than 40. So we're looking at A2 to A50. And criteria 1, remember these have to be in quotes. Now we can do it in that way if we want. Criteria range 2 is also A2 to A51. And this is greater than 40 with quote. And that did actually work for me, I thought, earlier today. Let's try that with the ands. Nope. What did I miss here? Ifs A2, A50 is greater than 10. A2, A51. Actually, that's why. If you look here, this is one of the things with ifs. Also, you get the same thing with the sum and average conditional. So you see, I did A2, A50 here, and A2, A51 here. These have to be the same ranges. So if I make that 51, now it works. And it would have worked with the 10, with the other one inside of the quotes too. Except for some reason, that's still giving me the wrong number because it's saying I only have 10 there. It's greater than 10, oh, and greater than 40. Okay, there we go. And less than 40. So again, this is why you have to really pay attention to your testing. Okay, well, what if I want evenly divisible by 2 or evenly divisible by 3? And we can do that one also. So that's CountIf, not CountIfs. And it's CountIf, and this is B2, B51, and evenly divisible by 2 would be a 0 there. And, or as plus in this case, um, CountIf C2, C51, 0, 41, except that's not quite right. And this is sort of where we get into the issue of as you start to get more complex functions, these functions start to fail you. Because in this case, we're looking for evenly divisible by 2 or evenly divisible by 3, but this formula is actually counting 6, for example. It's counting twice because it's evenly divisible by 2 and evenly divisible by 3. So you have to subtract out 1 for each of the ones that qualifies twice. Conveniently, we already have that number up here in F6. So we can just actually subtract F6 from that. And that gives us a 33, which is the correct number. So looking at these functions, you can see, we're starting to kind of push them a little bit. You can get more complicated. Again, don't be afraid to use intermediate cells. But remember, as you combine things, you're going to start to get more interaction, more interplay. You're going to risk double counting. And if you double count, that's going to mess up your count. It's going to mess up your data. You're going to be working with the wrong stuff. So be really careful using it. You have to do the same thing if you're adding everything up manually. So that's nothing different. I just have to be really careful as you use it that you make sure to look for double counted data. Okay. And you can kind of do the same thing over here with text. For example, I have a text value here. Again, I have the same 1 to 50, except I've typed in the last digit there. So I can do equals CountIf. Uh, my range here is B2 to B51, and my criteria is 5. And there are 5 of them that have the word 5 on it, which makes sense because it's 5, 15, 25, 35, 45, 55. Uh, so that works. And again, it's not equals 5, it's just 5, uh, in quotes, of course, here. So that's about all there is to the CountIf function. The next video is going to be looking at the SumIf and the AverageIf functions. Uh, so if you haven't already subscribed, be sure to subscribe so you can see that when it comes out. I'll link it in the description down below when it comes out. Uh, if you aren't familiar with the if and the ifs functions and the choose and the switch functions, which are very closely related and sometimes very, very useful, there's a link to those down in the description as well. Uh, if you learned anything from this video, please hit the like button. Also subscribe and hit notify so you can see when new videos come out. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.